Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. The Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we discuss the film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, one exposition dump at a time. My name is Tom Taylor.
I'm the Admiral, Pete Mummert.
Gerald Christopher Moose Tracks Porter.
And I'm Shia LaBeouf, Heather Antos.
Welcome, both of you. It's good to have you back.
It's great to be back. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has. An Indiana Jones Minute. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ooh.
You've been with us for each of the 3 movies so far. You were with us, I think, on the Bantu Wind, right? When Marion was getting rough.
That Krell hair stuff.
Yeah.
And then where were you in Temple of Doom? I was trying to remember that.
Temple of Doom, I was in got the assassin that came at night.
In the hotel room or the
in the hotel room when they're this is right before they don't sleep together.
right, sure.
And then Last Crusade, you were I think he was fighting with his other female friend, wasn't
exactly.
he? Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
That's how our minds work. But here you just got 2 dudes sitting at a table for a week. Let's see what we can
More
do
or
with
less.
that. Yeah. This is, of course, minute 31. And minute 31 begins with Mutt giving Indy permission to laugh at the idea of Oxley finding a real crystal skull. And it ends with Indy telling Mutt about the legend of the city of Akator.
And I have to say right off the start, you mentioned this off air right before we started, Heather, but we didn't mention last week that Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw's daughter is sitting at the table behind Indy and Mutt. And once you know who that is, you can't not see it. She looks exactly like her dad.
Well, now I got to go look.
She does. Yeah. And she's, spoilers, she punches Shia LaBeouf, which, I can relate.
We're all,
She won the prize.
Yeah, that's the best role in this movie. But
you can join our. We've just recently started a Mutt watch because we said Mutt gets a lot of guff and a lot of blame for this movie not living up to maybe what it should have been, and we're checking in weekly or minutely to see if the accusations are fair.
It sounds like you are not on Team Mutt.
Yes.
Well, so I was just I said this just off air just before we were recording, but this because of doing this podcast with you guys, you got me to watch Crystal Skull again. Psych. And acknowledge its existence. So congratulations, I guess.
Works like a charm.
But I've not seen it since I went to see it in theaters with my father, because my childhood was him showing me Indiana Jones, so it coming to theaters was like a big deal for us bonding, I guess. And we bonded afterwards about how much we hated it. And
it brings a family together.
There's what did I as I was watching it earlier, I texted my boyfriend. I was like, there's a lot to like about this film, and none of it has to do with the script.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And there are people that love Shia, there are people that love to hate Shia. I don't think this kid can act to save his life. I don't think he's given a lot to work with in this. Also, that doesn't I don't think he's given the best dialogue, but he also doesn't do anything with it. So especially in this scene, there's a few lines here and there that I'm just like, wow, you tried. So
we call that around here Willie-itis. where
Yeah.
she just or the more formal name Kate Capshaw Kate
Mhm.
Capshaw disease, which is
Yeah.
somebody who should be good or actually is great or is doing a great job, but they have nothing to work with. It's unfair, and you're watching
Yeah.
them doing the best that they can, but starting a 100-yard dash at the negative 100-yard line.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm dying to know at second 3,
Uh-huh.
what does Mutt fling off his cheek?
Sweat.
It's a single tear.
Is it?
Oh God, yeah.
maybe a future.
Maybe was he scratching? Did he have an itch?
You know what's interesting? I want to know. I would like to ask, anyone who has ever acted, is that just him sort of being natural? Because I really like it.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what we call business. He gave himself a little bit of business with his cheek.
Yeah, he's explaining it, and he kind of itches
He's
or
tapping
scratches
the table.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I like it.
His
And
daddy-oing all over the place.
But it's funny because the first line he says, they cut 2 lines out of the script. And so his first line is, "All right, laugh if you want." But there's no reason why Indy didn't laugh.
Yeah, Indy didn't laugh.
Yeah.
And I like to think that he's just inviting Indy to relax and have a nice time. He's like, "Okay, laugh if you want."
Yeah, that's been
Let's have fun.
his mood so far.
Except he's all so serious. In
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Like he's like, this is business,
Yeah.
and I'm going to tell you this for real thing.
Quit making fun of my name.
Yeah. But there were 2 lines they took out that make the laugh thing make a little more sense. Is Mutt says right at when this minute starts, he says, "Oxley said the skull had psychic powers," and Indy said, "Like stare into its eyes and it'll drive you crazy." And that's when Mutt says, "All right, laugh if you want."
See, and that
Weird.
makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Kind of. I don't. We'll get it. I mean, we'll get it.
it makes sense that that's a thing that you could chuckle at,
Yeah.
or
Or
scoff at, or whatever.
Introducing that detail about the crystal skull before we even know what it is, or anything I got a lot of problems with the next couple of minutes with the information we get and how we get it and when we get it.
Yeah, it's very
So
hard to follow.
I mean, I spent so many times so many hours on these minutes, just taking notes and stuff. I
couldn't figure out when Mary disappears and how she gets the letter, and
Yeah,
none of it makes sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Why would the skull have psychic powers? I mean, it's I can
Aliens. Aliens.
Yeah,
I'm
you gotta watch
imagining
the
the
movie,
History Channel guy right now. Aliens.
But I'm saying the skull gives you psychic powers.
True. Yeah.
But he says the skull has psychic powers. So you're like, oh, so they're looking for something alive?
Well, maybe being able to bestow psychic powers is in itself a psychic power.
I see. Okay.
I made a big study of this. Not really.
Wow. Yeah, it's good.
So we get our first mention of Akator.
Yeah.
Mutt says Ox said he found it this time. He was off to a place called Akator with it. And Indy's like, Akator? He said that? And Akator has a fascinating history. It's absolutely bananas. It sounds like it should be a real thing. And Indy acts like it's a real thing in this. But Akator was made up in the 1970s.
Oh, really?
German journalist
Mm-hmm.
named Karl Brugger, who was working in Brazil, and he met this guy who claimed to be a Brazilian chieftain. And this guy told him about Akator, that was supposed to be an underground city populated by the Uga people. And this guy was apparently fairly gullible for a journalist, and he believed everything he said, and he wrote a book about it. So he wrote this book all about Akator, and this chieftain was his only source.
Wow.
And so then after the book came out, this chieftain led several people, like foreigners who were tourists or adventurers. They paid him, and he would lead them to Akator. And 3 of those people went missing, and it later turned out they were murdered by the chieftain. And then the guy that wrote the book, the German journalist, was also murdered, and German police also think that was by the chieftain. And the reason the German police think that is because the German police say that this chieftain was actually a German guy who had tax problems and fled Germany in the 1960s and left his wife and kids behind and took on this new persona as a Brazilian native chieftain in the 1960s.
Oh,
As you
boy.
do.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either that or pay
That
your taxes.
that is my natural, as a German, my natural
Yeah.
instinct is to do that.
You've got your whole plan
I
in
don't
place,
know.
right? For when your taxes get a little out of control, you're just going to bolt someplace
for
and
sure,
become a
for
chieftain
sure.
somewhere.
Start
Yeah.
murdering, tourists.
Yeah.
Totally fair.
Well, and I think in America they just go to Florida. I think that's the American equivalent,
That's
right?
where El Dorado is, right?
Yeah.
Probably down there somewhere.
But it's nuts. I mean, this whole story, this whole movie is based on a fake story by a murdering guy that had tax problems and fled Germany.
So you think that the screenwriters knew nothing about it being fake, and they just
I don't
thought
know
it
if
was
they
a
knew
real
about it
thing?
being fake or not. I think someone read that book though that the journalist wrote, and
That's
they was like,
amazing.
"Oh, this would be great." But the only way Indy would know this, unless he's in this parallel universe, is if he knew the German guy. Unless he had maybe met him in Germany, and then I don't know. It's really weird. I like to think that the German guy's actually Pat Roach.
yeah. I was wondering though, why? I mean, he mentions Akator, and he's like, yeah, the conquistadors called it El Dorado. I'm like, oh, I've heard of El Dorado. Why aren't we just calling it El Dorado? Why don't they just? Wouldn't people respond more to that?
Well, El Dorado is also a weird thing we can talk about in a couple minutes, but
I mean, to a layman like me who's just watching the movie and oh, I learned about the Lost Ark from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
I learned about Shankara stars from Temple Run.
Right.
Yeah, El Dorado is commonplace.
Yeah.
The city of gold. Oh, so Indiana Jones is going to go try to find the city of gold. Okay.
I saw that DreamWorks movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's one of those new world mythology.
And everyone knows about that. And that was Cortez was looking for that in Last Crusade, so that could tie in a little bit even.
Yeah.
But in Akator, apparently this chieftain said that there were these ancient gods that came, which is where I think they get the alien thing. They gave special stones to the people, to the Uga people who were supposed to guard the temple with the stones. And these special stones allowed them to see any place on earth. And 4 of all the gods returned home except for 4, and those 4 gods were mummified. So this is literally this made up book became the plot of Crystal Skull.
The story you just told just there almost makes more sense with this movie in a way. The way, I mean, this kind of crosses into the next minute, but I don't, what we see later on towards the end of the movie, I don't know how that lines up with what Indy's telling us now about, God's telling people to build the city, the temple, and everything. Mm-hmm. And then this is more of a minute 34 comment that I'm making, but yeah.
But then El Dorado
32
is also a misnomer. The Spanish kind of made up El Dorado. There was a legend that there's this guy in Colombia that they called El Dorado, El Humano Dorado, or El Hombre Dorado, who was the gold man. And he was so rich, he would take baths, or he would cover himself in gold dust and then bathe in the lake to wash it all off. And while he was doing that, they would have these big ceremonies where they would throw gold items into the lake. And then the Spanish heard about this, and then somehow that got kind of morphed into, there's a whole city made of gold.
Weird.
Yeah.
What I don't understand
is that where King Midas came from?
Oh,
that
maybe.
was way
yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? That sounds very King Midas related.
It does.
Well, what kind of dumbass would build a city out of solid gold?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea
have you seen what Donald Trump's apartment in New York is like?
Well, I mean, I thought about it just for 2 seconds, how impractical.
Or I was going to say, or Versailles. Have you seen Versailles?
But just solid gold.
Every time you took a step, you'd leave footprints. Because
gold
is so
not only
soft.
that,
it's so soft.
Every sunny day would be blindingly, unbearably bright. And then I thought, solid gold is gold is a good thermal and electrical conductor. So like these aqueducts, if you had solid gold aqueduct, I mean, they, on any sunny day, especially if you're talking about like out west or in the, maybe in, where it's very sunny all the time, it just, everything would be hot, would be like blazing hot. And then everybody, like, what are you going to trade in? You've built your city out of the commodity, commodity that everyone else is trading in. So
you Airbnb, obviously.
But then everybody would be trying to, like, it would be constantly trying to disassemble your city all the time.
To
the point where
so great local economy. You got people coming in. I see no problem with this.
But every time someone comes in, they snap off I'm going to snap off this toilet seat, or I'm going to snap off this chair. And walk away with it because
I mean, remember Midas? There was a point to the story, and it was like the King Midas thing. Now you build a city out of solid gold. What are you going to do? Like, even if you're the conquistador. I was going to ask you about that, Pete. How do you like Indy's pronunciation of conquistador?
Conquistador.
He's just trying.
I mean, how are you going to how are you going to cart a city?
Yeah, Although the
very carefully,
conquistadors were pretty good about melting every single piece of artwork down.
That is true.
So they would have just they would have just they would have taken a big oven to the whole city. But then he talks about I liked his conquistador pronunciation, but then he completely Americanizes Francisco de Orianna. But he was actually he did disappear into the Amazon eventually, but not in the way they talk about it here. He was originally looking for the city of cinnamon, or the land of cinnamon.
Who would build a city out of cinnamon? On a hot day, it would smell fantastic. And
I know, that would be lovely. Yeah. But we've got a couple of really great archaeologists going to come on later, I think, to talk about Mr. Orianna. So I think that's going to be fun.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, cool.
Well, Indy says about Akator, quote, "I almost died of typhus looking for it myself. I don't think it exists." Now, I want to know, are those two sentences related? Because Indy almost died and failed, does he then just assume that the prize or the city doesn't exist?
He's like, forget it. There's no Akator.
Yeah,
I'm sick.
Yeah.
I don't feel good. I want to go home.
Yeah, Does he just say no, look, it doesn't exist. If I couldn't find it, if I failed at it, then it just doesn't exist.
Well, he has found every goofball thing he's ever looked for. So
here's the thing: he found every goofball thing that everyone else has intercepted him and said, "Hey, you know what?" The only thing that we've ever known he's found that he's actually looked for was the Teotihuacan idol.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. He found the Ark.
But that was someone else asked him to find it.
But he's not. Yeah, he's not. It's not. That's all I was saying. He never starts off with hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. This whole stones and God sort of thing sounds a lot, very Temple of Doomy to me. Shankara stones.
A little bit.
Yeah, magic rocks. Rocks, Dr. Jones.
Infinity stones.
Yeah. You have to get the mind skull and the soul skull, and Pete and Jerry
the
don't know
time
what we're
skull
talking
and
Well, there's so much cool stuff they could have had. Like the Aztecs had this thing that they supposedly found. It was an infinity obsidian mirror where you could look into this obsidian mirror and see the future. There are so many things that were based in actual legends that would have been fun. Cool. This one's kind of weird.
Man.
Aliens are legends, so I guess it all fits in.
I guess so.
Hey, I'd like to point out that we were talking about, we get a lot of information here, the Uga tribe and El Dorado and all the Akator and everything. At the end of this minute, and after it's been about 2 or 3 minutes since we first heard about it, and it's been mentioned twice, we still don't know who's trying to kill Oxley or why.
Yeah.
It's been brought up twice, and now we're just talking about skulls and El Dorados and things.
Yeah.
We still don't know what the deal is with Oxley.
And Mutt's really kind of taking his time getting to the point.
Yeah. And Indy's not helping. He's like, I'll tell you the story of Akator.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Indy's just like, well, I'm going to prove that I teach history and know about it. And I'm going to give you a lecture right here.
Yeah. I do like the nice eerie music at the end here.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sitting and watching this earlier, and I was just like, did Harrison Ford know the dramatic music that was going to be underneath him while he was giving this monologue? Because like he's so solemn and so serious and giving this that I started laughing because it was just so perfectly cheesy and like but in a good way, and like one of those ways like why we love Indiana Jones is that level of cheese. But I was just like, did he know that they're like, and then the score comes in?
Yeah.
Like, he's seen enough Steven Spielberg movies that he knows exactly where the music is going to be.
That's fair.
Well, so is this our
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah.
Moment.
This is
in
opening the
movie.
Bible.
A little bit.
Yeah.
He does give it, like he goes, much like Raiders where he does the whole lightning, fire and power of God sort of thing. He kind of looks up. In this one, he raises his eyebrows and goes, solid gold. And it kind of has a little bit of that, vibe there. Like, a city of solid gold.
I mean, that's the one thing Indy is interested. He doesn't care about the power, the history behind these things. He just wants the gold.
That almost read to me like his version of wiped clean by the wrath of God. Like he's like he's almost just sort of like kind of poking at Mutt with that or something. Like, ooh, a city of gold. trying to get him riled up, excited about this crazy story, even though he thinks it's silly.
Well, is Indy kind of a like he goes back to the well, like he knows this worked before, so he's like, okay, I got to do this serious talk now.
Yeah,
like this. I sounded like a badass when I did this the last couple times.
Yeah.
This always gets him.
This is how I get the kid to take me seriously, right? Like I think like this.
Yeah, dangle a city of gold in front of him.
Yeah. What if Mutt had his eyelids said like "love you"?
Aww.
Aww.
What if his leather jacket had his name stenciled on it? I just
noticed. Bedazzled.
Is that a
I
thing?
think bedazzled.
No, that's what Marlon Brando did in the Wild Ones. He had his
Is it
name
really?
stenciled
Okay.
It was just like that. Yeah.
I couldn't tell if that was like super cool or like, oh, my mom didn't want me to lose my cool leather jacket, so she stenciled my name on it.
I figured he might as well have, Wild Ones on his eyelids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Wild Bunch, as Tom
cool.
says. Yeah.
Yeah, Wild Bunch.
Wild
cool.
Bunch.
Yeah, some Western. Sam Peckinpah. Yeah.
I do wish this were set in, you might like this, Jerry, in Teotihuacan, because that fits the description that Indy's talking about. Like they had aqueducts and paved roads and technology.
Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't see for thousands of years.
Can we I'm having are we allowed to jump ahead and talk about what we know that happens later? Like
Yes.
in regards to like
this is our fourth season.
so we can do what we want. Can I just talk about like Superman 3? Remember that part of Superman? No, okay. He I was trying to picture based on what he's telling us that these gods came. Does he even say gods? I think he does say gods. That these gods came again and told the people, and then somebody stole a skull from the place. And I'm trying to fit that in with like the end of the movie where they go to the thing and you see all these alien skeletons and one's missing a skull. So were the aliens all dead and skeletons when they were telling the Uga tribe to build this temple? And then somebody came in and stole one of the skeleton skulls? Like, I don't get what's going on. Like, this is all very...
Yeah.
I mean, I know I haven't seen the movie yet, but this is...
Yeah, it's all weird.
I'm expecting this not to totally add up and hold water, you guys. We'll have to... Well, that'll be another watch. The water watch. Does this movie hold water?
The water holding watch.
Oh, and also the whole Orianna thing.
Uh-huh.
Or the Orianna thing. He mentions... that Orianna disappeared in 1546 looking for Akator,
mm-hmm.
and that the skull was supposedly stolen like within 200 years of that. He mentions like the 15th or 16th century. So later on when we see Orianna, spoilers, and the skull is there, is that because he died there after leaving from the thing? We don't have to answer that now. I'm just trying to, I am trying like a drowning man to keep track of this plot already.
I don't think we know. I don't think we ever find out about that. I think
we don't find out a lot of things.
Wait.
Well,
so,
yes.
So what happened
but
here?
like
Oxley, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, they just show up and they're like, "Oh, this one's already been opened." They look at it and, like, conveniently, I guess, I don't know, and they have that like gold mask to prove that he was at El Dorado, and
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
yeah, and he has that like suit of armor and all their, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, it's him." Shrug, like,
Yeah. And look, a skull.
Yeah.
right, like that's.
Yeah.
Wait, but doesn't Mutt say that Oxley hid the skull?
Yeah.
That's later, Jerry.
That's later.
I know, but we're talking about stuff
Yeah, I
that
don't
happens
know.
later. But
No, you're right.
so if Oxley hid the skull, did Oxley hide the skull where they find it? I don't know.
Well, that's the last place you look.
Right.
It's not ever going to be where you expect it, so let's put it where you expect it.
Yeah. Kate Blanchett was walking around with the skull in her hand. Have you seen my skull?
Where did I put that thing? Well, do we have anything else for 31?
Yeah, speaking of walking around with your head in your hand, this just in from Professor Christy Porter. How did Mutt recognize Indy? What is Mutt's next Herculean
The hat.
task? And what number is he on now?
What
That's a good
number of
question,
Herculean
actually.
task?
Yes, like he reached out, he finds Indy,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of strange. I don't know how he did
We'll
that.
see the letter in the next.
Yeah, how he
minute.
does that, or it's because did Oxley talk about him to Mutt?
Yeah, I feel like Mutt hasn't been given a lot of information.
Yeah, I get his well, that's the thing is like it feels to me throughout this entire movie that Mutt has like a Bluetooth implant in his ear or something, and Oxley is just feeding him information. Like truly, like that's
Yeah. Maybe Oxley's using the skull back at camp to communicate with Mutt.
Ooh. Now
Wow,
you're onto
that's
something.
Yeah, it's as good a theory as any.
And honestly, knowing George and Stephen, probably not that far off
Yeah.
from the truth.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Beats writing a movie.
Also, why Chrissy's making these beep beep beeps a lot harder than she used to? Like it used to just be like a comment, and now they're all difficult
Yeah, now
questions.
she's putting us to task. It's like homework.
Well, I think she was also just wondering, like, okay, so what was Mutt doing before this task?
Probably
What,
combing
what,
his hair
what
Combing
was
his
he
hair.
doing?
with
Oh,
Sprite.
jinx.
Jinx.
Do you want me to read the letter? What his mom says? Because there's only one line about this task.
Yes.
So this is.
But
2
that's the
minutes
next
from now, but I'll
minute,
read
isn't it, Pete?
It's 2 minutes from now.
Damn it. All right. Lost control of the show, but go ahead.
I know. Well, so there's this letter she writes, and you just see the bottom of it. But the last paragraph is, you need to explain all of this to Henry Jones. He needs to come here as soon as possible. It could be a matter of life and death. I have all the faith in you. Much love, Mom. So she doesn't tell him how to recognize him or where he is, or
Yeah.
Just find it. Well, he looked him up on like he stalked his Facebook and
He looks a little bit like you.
yeah.
well, not like
But-
Heather,
but-
but yeah.
No, not like Heather,
Yeah.
but like Mutt, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, but no, we share that that same snark, so like a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look for that Heather Antos snark and some guy on a train. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that brings up a
great
good
hat.
question. Or as Jerry would say, I have an excellent question. Does Mutt live in Connecticut? Like, is he just here? Like, is he just Indy's down the street? Or did he have to fly here from,
that's a
Iowa
good
or
question.
something?
Or does like Marion have like pictures of him
Yeah.
around the house?
Yeah.
I guess.
That'd be weird.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's
And
from
she said-
Chicago. I wonder if since Indy and Oxley were at college together, which we presume was the
Oh, yeah.
University of Chicago.
And that's where Marion's,
settled
that's where
there?
Fedora was a professor too.
Stop that, Pete. Not only was that last season, but it wasn't funny then either. Well, listen, we're still talking about 31, but we're done talking about minute 31. Now we're going to end this one and go on to the next one on Wednesday. But before we do that, Heather, thank you for joining us. We hope you come back on Wednesday with us.
I'll see if I can fit it in.
All right. And in the meantime, is there any place where people should check you out? And you've moved jobs since we last spoke to you.
I have, yes. Now I'm no longer at Marvel. I'm well, last time we spoke, I was doing Unicorn. So man, I'm moving all over the place.
Yeah, you're busy.
But no, now I'm at Valiant Entertainment working on some awesome comics there, like Bloodshot, Exo Manowar, Live Wire. And to follow me and see what I'm up to, you can check me on the interwebs on Twitter or Instagram at Heather Antos.
Excellent. Everybody check her out. Check out her stuff. Visit her on Twitter. Like she's
got a great Twitter account too. It's fun.
Yeah.
To follow Heather. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so
It's
much.
lively.
Yeah.
And please come back on Wednesday for minute 32 right here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Laugh if you want to.
All right.
It's actually pretty. That's a good line for this entire movie.
Laugh if you want to, especially when no one's laughing.